Imagine being torn from your family, stripped of your identity, and forced to witness the darkest depths of human cruelty, all before you're even a teenager. This is the true story of Night by Elie Wiesel, a haunting memoir that exposes the horrors of the Holocaust through the eyes of a young boy struggling to survive amid unimaginable suffering. In this gripping journey, faith shatters, innocence is lost, and the question, "Where is God?" becomes a painful cry echoing through the silence of death camps. Get ready to dive into one of the most powerful testimonies of human endurance and the fight to keep hope alive in a world consumed by darkness. Chapter 1, Night by Elie Wiesel. The story begins in Siet, a small town in Transylvania, now part of Romania, where Elie Wiesel, a Jewish teenager, lives with his family. Elie is deeply religious and wants to study Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition, despite his father's reluctance. He finds a spiritual guide in Moishe the Beetle, a poor, humble man who helps him explore his faith and question the mysteries of God. However, Moishe is deported along with other foreign Jews. He later escapes and returns to Siet to warn the community that the Nazis are committing atrocities and mass executions. Tragically, no one believes him. The townspeople think he's mad or seeking pity, and life soon returns to normal. Months later, the Nazis arrive in Siet. At first, their presence seems harmless, but things escalate quickly. Jewish leaders are arrested and restrictive decrees are issued. Jews are forced to wear yellow stars, surrender valuables, and live in ghettos. The Wiesel family, like the rest of the Jewish population, is eventually confined to a small ghetto. Soon, they receive orders for deportation. Elie's family is among the last to leave. They are packed into cattle cars with 80 people per car, with little food or water. Conditions are cramped, suffocating, and terrifying. As the train begins its journey toward Auschwitz, a woman named Madame Schachter starts to scream about seeing fire and flames. Everyone assumes she's hallucinating, but her screams foreshadow the horrifying reality that awaits. Chapter 1 establishes a false sense of security the Jewish people inside felt, and the gradual stripping away of their freedoms. It introduces the major themes of disbelief, loss of faith, and the terrifying transition from normal life to the horrors of the Holocaust. Chapter 2, Night by Elie Wiesel. Chapter 2 begins with Eliezer and his family packed tightly into a cattle car with around 80 other Jews. The train is unbearably crowded, with no room to sit and almost no air to breathe. People grow hungry, thirsty, and anxious as the journey continues for days. The oppressive heat, lack of hygiene, and growing uncertainty create a sense of desperation among the passengers. In the middle of this tension, a woman named Madame Schachter begins to scream uncontrollably. She has been separated from her husband and sons and is now traveling alone with her young child. Her mental state deteriorates as she repeatedly shrieks about seeing fire and flames outside the train, terrifying the others. At first, people try to calm her down, but as her screaming continues night after night, the other passengers grow impatient and even beat her to silence her. They believe she is losing her mind and creating panic. Ironically, Madame Schachter's visions are prophetic. Her screams about fire and burning foreshadow the horrific crematoriums and furnaces of Auschwitz, their destination. After several days, the train finally stops. The passengers are told they have reached their final stop, Auschwitz-Birkenau, the infamous Nazi extermination and labor camp. As the doors of the cattle car open, the prisoners are hit by the stench of burning flesh. They see chimneys belching flames and begin to understand the terrifying reality that awaits them. Armed guards order them off the train, shouting and barking instructions. The fear, confusion, and disbelief are overwhelming. Chapter 2 marks the psychological transition from hope to terror. The journey ends not in freedom or relocation, but in the gates of hell. The madness of Madame Schachter is a chilling mirror of the madness of the Holocaust itself. Chapter 3, Night by Elie Wiesel. Chapter 3 marks Eliezer's terrifying arrival at Auschwitz-Birkenau, a Nazi extermination camp. As soon as they leave a cattle car, the Jews are shouted at by SS officers and separated by gender. Elie is split from his mother and sisters, never to see them again. He remains with his father. A fellow prisoner quickly warns him to lie about their ages to avoid being sent to the gas chambers. Elie says he is 18, and his father says he is 40. They are then herded before Dr. Mengele, a notorious SS officer who conducts selections. With a flick of his hand, Mengele determines who will live and who will die. Many are immediately sent toward the crematoria. Elie and his father are sent in the other direction, narrowly escaping death. As they march, Elie sees the horrifying crematory pits where the Nazis are burning the bodies of children and adults. The stench of burning flesh is overwhelming. Elie is emotionally and spiritually shaken. For the first time, he begins to doubt God, wondering how a just and all-powerful God could allow such atrocities. They are stripped of their clothes, shaved, and disinfected with petrol. After a brutal initiation, they are moved to another section of Auschwitz, where they receive prison uniforms and are tattooed with identification numbers. Elie becomes A7713, his name erased, replaced by a number. Eventually, Elie and his father are transferred to Auschwitz proper and then to Buna, a subcamp. The prisoners are constantly degraded and abused. Fear, hunger, and confusion dominate their lives. Despite the suffering, Elie clings to his father, who becomes his sole support and motivation for survival. This chapter captures Eliezer's loss of innocence, loss of family, and the beginning of his loss of faith. The cruelty of the camp shatters his perception of humanity and divinity. Chapter 4, Night by Elie Wiesel. In Chapter 4, Eliezer and his father arrive at Buna, a subcamp of Auschwitz, where they hope conditions will be slightly better. Upon arrival, they are examined by a dentist and assigned to a work unit. Elie is fortunate to be placed in a warehouse where he counts electrical parts, a relatively easy job compared to other brutal tasks in the camp. However, life at Buna is still harsh and dehumanizing. Elie witnesses violence from both SS officers and fellow prisoners. One of the cruelest figures is Idek, the capo, a prisoner in charge of other prisoners, who is known for his unpredictable rage. One day, Elie catches Idek with a young woman, and Idek brutally whips Elie 25 times in front of everyone as punishment for seeing something he shouldn't. Elie also encounters a camp dentist, who is supposed to extract gold teeth from prisoners. The dentist tries to take Elie's gold crown, but Elie delays the process by pretending to be sick. Eventually, the dentist is arrested and executed for stealing gold for himself. Later, another prisoner forces Elie to give up his gold crown in exchange for protection. One of the most haunting events in this chapter is the public hanging of 3 prisoners, including a young boy, a Papel, who is beloved by many. The boy is so light that his neck doesn't break, and he struggles for over half an hour before dying. The prisoners are forced to watch in silence. When someone asks, "Where is God?" Elie reflects that God died that day on the gallows, symbolizing his deep spiritual crisis. This chapter emphasizes the loss of moral order, the cruelty within the camps, and the growing numbness Elie feels as he continues to witness unspeakable horrors. Chapter 5, Night by Elie Wiesel. Chapter 5 begins with the arrival of the Jewish high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Normally, these would be sacred times for reflection and prayer, but in the concentration camp, the atmosphere is bleak. Despite their suffering, many prisoners gather to pray. Elie, however, feels a deep spiritual rebellion. He can no longer pray to a God he believes has abandoned him. He questions God's justice, refusing to fast on Yom Kippur, both as a protest and because he needs the food for survival. As winter approaches, conditions worsen. Elie's foot begins to swell, and he must undergo surgery in the camp infirmary. The doctors operate successfully, but while he is recovering, a rumor spreads that the Russians are advancing and the camp is going to be evacuated. Elie and his father must decide whether to stay behind in the infirmary, which might be liberated soon, or join the evacuation. Fearing execution, they choose to leave with the others. Ironically, they later learn that those who stayed in the infirmary were liberated by the Russians just days later. Before the evacuation, another selection takes place. Elie's father is selected for possible execution, but he survives after convincing the SS that he is still useful. These selections continue to haunt Elie, as every moment in the camp is a struggle between life and death, hope and despair. This chapter focuses on Elie's internal battle with faith, his increasing numbness to suffering, and the harsh choices forced upon the prisoners. Even religious observances that once brought comfort are now overshadowed by hunger, pain, and hopelessness. Yet the bond between Elie and his father grows stronger, giving them both a reason to keep going. Chapter 6, Night by Elie Wiesel. In Chapter 6, Eliezer and the other prisoners are forced to evacuate Buna in the middle of a bitterly cold winter night. The SS orders them to march for over 40 miles through snow and ice toward the Gleiwitz camp. Anyone who falls behind is shot. Eliezer is physically exhausted, his foot still healing from surgery. But he pushes forward to stay with his father. The march is brutal. Prisoners collapse in the snow and die. Elie describes how they become like machines, motivated only by instinct and survival. During a brief stop, Elie and his father take turns sleeping in the snow, leaning against each other so neither of them freezes to death. At one point, Elie contemplates letting his father die to ease his own burden, but he quickly rejects the thought, horrified by the idea. When they reach Gleiwitz, they are herded into a crowded barracks. Many prisoners are crushed to death or suffocated due to overcrowding. Elie finds himself lying on top of Juliek, a young musician he knew from Buna. During the night, Juliek plays a haunting violin solo, a beautiful moment of human expression in a world of brutality. By morning, Juliek is dead and his violin is crushed. After 3 days without food or water, a selection is conducted. Elie's father is nearly sent to die, but survives after Elie causes a distraction. Then, the prisoners are loaded into open cattle cars to be transported again, this time deeper into Germany. This chapter highlights the extreme physical and psychological torment of the death march. The prisoners are treated worse than animals. Despite this, the love between Elie and his father endures. The scene with Juliek's violin symbolizes the last flicker of humanity in a collapsing world. Chapter 7, Night by Elie Wiesel. Chapter 7 describes a train journey from Gleiwitz to Buchenwald, which becomes another chapter of horror. The prisoners are packed into open cattle cars in the dead of winter. Cold winds whip through the cars, and dozens die from exposure, starvation, or exhaustion. Out of the 100 men who boarded Elie's wagon, only a dozen survive the trip. During the journey, dead bodies are thrown out of the train. When workers come to collect the corpses, Elie's father is nearly taken, mistaken for dead. Elie quickly revives him, showing how even in complete despair, he refuses to lose the one thing keeping him alive, his father. As the train stops briefly in German towns, civilians throw bread into the cars. What might seem like an act of generosity becomes a scene of barbaric violence as starving men fight and kill each other over crumbs. Elie watches in horror as a son kills his own father to take his bread, only to be killed by others moments later. Elie reflects bitterly on this madness, recognizing how hunger has stripped people of all humanity. This chapter also marks the further deterioration of Elie's physical and emotional state. He becomes numb to death and suffering. He no longer reacts with horror, just exhaustion. His only remaining motivation is to keep his father alive. Eventually, after 10 days of travel and countless deaths, the train arrives at Buchenwald, another concentration camp. Elie and his father are among the few who are still alive, but their strength is gone and hope is fading. This chapter is one of the darkest in the book. It shows a complete breakdown of human morality, the savagery born from desperation, and the thin line between survival and death. Chapter 8, Night by Elie Wiesel. In Chapter 8, Eliezer and his father arrive at Buchenwald. By now, both are exhausted, starved, and barely alive. Upon arrival, Elie's father begins to weaken rapidly, growing sicker by the hour. He suffers from dysentery, and the harsh conditions in the camp, lack of food, filth, and brutal cold, make his condition worse. Elie does everything he can care for his father, bringing him coffee and soup when possible, even though other prisoners advise him to let go. Some prisoners tell Elie that he should conserve his strength and worry only about himself, as many sons abandon their fathers to survive. But Elie refuses. Despite his physical weakness, his emotional bond with his father keeps him going. As the days pass, Elie's father grows delirious and cries out for water constantly. The other prisoners become annoyed with him, and the SS officers beat him for making noise. One night, Elie's father is too weak to speak or move, And when Elie wakes up the next morning, his father is gone. He has died, likely taken to the crematorium during the night. Elie feels numb. His reaction to his father's death is not of immediate grief, but of emptiness and relief. He is ashamed to admit it, but he feels free from the burden of care, free from the pain of watching his father suffer. This chapter shows the final collapse of Elie's emotional world. With his father gone, he is completely alone. The Nazis have stripped him of everything: his family, his faith, his identity, and now his last human connection. Elie's spiritual and emotional detachment reaches its peak, illustrating the devastating effects of the Holocaust on both body and soul. Chapter 9, Night by Elie Wiesel. Chapter 9 describes the final days of Eliezer's survival in Buchenwald as World War II nears its end. After his father's death, Elie is left physically and emotionally depleted, struggling to find a reason to live. He becomes numb, indifferent to hunger, cold, and pain. His body wastes away, and he drifts through the camp like a ghost. The prisoners face a new horror when the Nazis begin to evacuate Buchenwald as the Allied forces approach. The SS forces the remaining inmates on a death march or crams them into overcrowded barracks. Elie manages to survive, clinging to the hope of liberation. On April 11, 1945, the American army liberates Buchenwald. Elie is free but is shocked to find himself a shadow of his former self. Thin, weak, and emotionally broken. He looks in a mirror and barely recognizes a haunted, hollow-eyed figure staring back at him. The book closes with this powerful image of Elie's survival, but also his deep loss. The loss of innocence, faith, family, and identity. Though physically alive, he feels that a part of him died in the camps. The trauma will stay with him forever. Chapter 9 highlights the brutal reality of survival in the Holocaust. Not just the struggle to stay alive physically, but the emotional and spiritual devastation it causes. Liberation does not erase the horrors. It merely marks the end of physical imprisonment, while the scars remain. This final chapter is a solemn reminder of the resilience of the human spirit, but also the terrible cost paid by those who endured the Holocaust. Night doesn't just tell a story of survival. It challenges us to remember the depths of human cruelty and the resilience it takes to endure. Elie Wiesel's journey reminds us that even in the face of absolute horror, the bonds of family and the flicker of hope can push us forward. But it also warns us never to forget, for forgetting is the first step to repeating history's darkest moments. As you close this story, ask yourself, what will you do to keep the light alive when the night seems endless? If this story moved you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep telling important stories like this. And tell me in the comments, what part of Elie's journey impacted you the most?